What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 192 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, incomparable Zach Jones. Today on the show, we will be reviewing episode 7 of Star Wars The Acolyte. This is the second to last episode of the first season, the penultimate episode, if you will. And I gotta be honest, I don't know how I feel about this episode. I still think it was a pretty mid episode. But the thing about it is, on one hand, I will say, to this episode's credit, it does try to provide answers to some criticisms I've had about the story in prior episode reviews. That being said, I don't think I found the answers it gave to be especially satisfying. And so listen, the whole episode is basically this, Rashomon style thing where they go back to basically that episode 3 flashback episode, but now we see it from the Jedi's perspective and how what they were doing weaves into what we already saw. And to be honest, I think this structural decision kind of was a bad idea. Because it just left us confused for several episodes when it didn't have to. And I don't think the, revelations we got in this episode were so mind-blowing that it's like, oh, structuring it like this really paid off. I honestly think they could have just told this whole story in episode 3 from, and we would have saw the witch's point of view, we would have saw the Jedi point of view all in that episode. I don't think breaking up the structure in this way really helped. I think it hindered. So I guess I'll address it off the top and then go into details later. So one of the big two sticking points I've had is when Torben committed suicide all the way back in episode 2. And then we saw episode 3. I was like, well, it didn't seem like he did anything bad enough to warrant him actually taking his own life. So, and then the other thing I had was Soul for many episodes is hinted at, like, oh, he has this big, deep, dark secret that he needs to tell Osha, that he needs to tell May. And I'm like, really, what could that be? Don't we pretty much know everything? So what we find out in this episode is that both of them, did they do stupid things in this episode that ultimately, I guess, was the catalyst for what happened? Yes, they did. But my thing is really everybody in this episode acted pretty stupid, especially like on the witch's side as well. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when you read a superhero comic and there's always that obligatory, like when a superhero first meets another superhero, they have to have a fight and then they have the conversation later. Whereas they really could have just had a 1 minute like logical conversation and been like, oh yeah, we don't have to fight. We can just skip that. But we need action. So I don't know. I think ultimately I'm going to score this episode somewhere between like a 5.5 to 6 out of 10. Like, I don't think it was great. They tried something. But yeah, I don't know. The whole Rashomon thing didn't really add to it for me. So here's the other thing. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the penultimate episode. We only got one left, which makes me very dubious of the final episode. And, definitely makes me think they're going to do a season 2 because I just can't see them giving us a satisfying wrap-up conclusion to this thing in one more episode. I felt the same way when we got to episode 7 of Ahsoka, and sure enough, like, episode 8 was, or however many, the last episode of Ahsoka was basically like, yeah, there's more to come, So I have to imagine this is probably getting a season 2, or at least they intended it to get a season 2. I guess we'll know more after the last episode, but yeah, where can they go in one episode's time that would satisfy us? Like, you would think, I mean, you got the May and Sol, Osha, and got him blanking on his name, Kamir, the villain character. Like, I guess they have to meet if we're going to have any sort of satisfying resolution. But boy, oh boy. I don't mean to sound too negative. Like, I don't hate this series with a passion like some people seem to. I just think it's treaded a lot of water, and there was really only, as far as action goes, like, episode 5 was really the only episode with a lot of exciting action, and the rest has been pretty dialogue heavy. So I'm curious where you guys think it'll go, what you thought of this episode. Please comment down below, let me know. But with those off the top thoughts out of the way, let me get into a breakdown of this episode. All right. So we open on Brendok 16 years earlier. The 4 Jedi that we've known this whole time. So that was Sol, Indara, Torben, and Kelnaka. They're on this planet. They look kind of bored, but they're collecting various samples of like moss and like rocks and things on the planet, and testing them. So at night they talk around a campfire, and so Torben's whole thing is he hates being here. He doesn't think there's anything here. He wants to go back to home to Coruscant. But Indara tells him that they are on a mission. Torben says that they have been there for 7 weeks. He says that there's nothing there, and if they were to find something, they probably would have found it by now. So Indara says that 100 years ago, the planet was cataloged as lifeless because of a hyperspace disaster. But for some reason, Brendok is thriving. By the way, like, hyperspace disaster, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean like some ships collided and like blew up a sector of space? I don't know exactly what that means. So Torben doesn't think it's a big deal that the planet is thriving, and Indara tells him to calm himself and not center around his anxieties. Torben just wants to know that what they're doing is important and meaningful. So Sol says that they are looking for a vergence, which apparently is a concentration of force energy centered around a location. Which, hey, Star Wars aficionados out there, is this a term that's been in Star Wars lore before, or is that original? This whole vergence thing. I was curious if that's been used before in other things. So Sol says that a vergence could be creating the life they see on this planet, and he says that's a power that should be studied and protected. I'm getting so many pop-ups here on my screen. Okay. All right. So he says that nothing could be more important to the Jedi than finding this power. He says that this is a noble mission. So the next day, they're all, taking more samples. And Indara tells Sol that Torben is too distracted to appreciate the significance of a vergence. She says they are not sure But she says they are not sure it's the cause of the life on Brendok. Sol says Torben was disturbed and unbalanced, and Indara tells Sol that he was disturbed. She tells him not to confuse Torben's feelings with his own. She says that she does not tell Torben answers to ease his mind. She tells him, or she teaches him to seek answers for himself. She asks Sol if he disagrees with her tactic of teaching Torben. He doesn't answer, and she says that's why he does not have a Padawan himself. So they decide to split up. Sol goes out on his own, and so this is where he discovers May and Osha from episode 3, where they're having the conversation under the Bunta tree, and he sees like May using the Force on the little butterfly creature. So this, of course, gets his attention big time. You know, another structure thing is if they were going to do this, I don't think in episode 3, because in episode 3 it shows that Sol is spying on them. Wouldn't it have been a cooler revelation somewhat if they didn't do that, and then we see him here and we're like, oh, he was there the whole time? You know, I don't know. It just seems like it would have had a little more, not that it would have been like a crazy impact or anything, but story-wise, I think it would have been cooler if they did not show him in that same scene before. So Sol radios Indara to tell her, but he doesn't get a response. I guess transmission problems again, which is a common thing in Star Wars. So Sol sees them enter the city they live in through a door. He can't get through that door, so he climbs over the city wall. Now we see that training session they had with their mother in episode 3. He's watching that training session. Eventually he goes away, and then we see Coral stand up and kind of look at where he was. So like she apparently could sense that he was there. Then he sees the witches preparing for the ascension ceremony. Like they're all like in front of that big hole in the ground or whatever. So he goes back to camp and he tells Indara what he saw. Torben assumes that they are Night Sisters, but Indara says that the Night Sisters do not raise younglings, let alone train them. Sol says that they do not treat the girls like children. Indara says that they should return to the ship and ask the council for guidance. So this is a big theme. Is like the rigid structure and bureaucracy and red tape of the Jedi, which is something they come back to so many times. Like, oh, we gotta consult the council, which gets a little annoying, but I guess I see the point they're getting at. Sol says that he fears for the girl's safety. He tells her that they're preparing a ceremony tonight. He asks her what if the girls are in danger. He says that he knows she would defer to the council, but he must insist that they go. He asks her to come with him and see what he has seen. So the four of them go to the entrance door at the city wall. Torben says that it's an old platform elevator that must have been an old mining site. So Kilnaka slices the door open. Indara says that she's going to go in alone, but Torben says that they must escort her. She says that it's too risky to go in as a group, and that the witches will take them as a threat if they do. Sol says that there are over 50 witches. Indara says 50 women and 2 children. Sol says that they should go as a team, and Indara reluctantly agrees, but says that they must be vigilant. So now we see the scene from episode 3 where the Jedi and the witches meet. The only difference is this time we see what's going on in Torben's head when Anastasia takes over his mind. So in his mind, She tells him that he's traveled so far only to become trapped on this planet. She tells him that he is a strong and good Jedi. Tells him that he has natural desires which he suppresses. And like her voice is all echoey here. I was kind of like for a minute that when she's talking about suppressing urges, I'm like, man, is she like trying to like seduce him in this like dream? She asked him if he wishes to escape this planet. She said she can help him escape. She asks if he wishes to return to Coruscant. She tells him that his master denies him. She tells him that she would not keep him from what he wants. So I guess in a way she is seducing him, just not necessarily sexually. She tells him to kneel, which he does both in the vision and in real life. And so this signifies that his mind is, totally taken over by him. But then we basically see the scene play out in exactly the same way it did in episode 3, because, it's the same scene. And then the Jedi return to their ship. So back on the ship, Indara tells Sol that he was clever by saying that they need to test the girls because it buys her time to ask the council for guidance. Which, by the way, this whole council business is like, before she's like wanted to talk to the council, but he's like, no, we got to go now. And I'm like, on the ship, their comms shouldn't have been down. Is it a time zone thing? Like they didn't want to wake the council at night? I mean, I don't know. It seemed weird that she couldn't have conferred with the council when she wanted to, but whatever. Sol tells her that he feels a connection to Osha. Indara tells him that testing the twins is not something they can take seriously. And she says that Osha is too old to join the order. Sol says that he feels she is meant to be his Padawan. Indara says that her coven will never let her leave, and she says that they are insular and strange. Sol says that they marked her sister, May, with dark magic. Indara says that ceremonial markings are customary in many cultures in the galaxy. He says, but Osha did not have one. And he says he worries that she's not safe. Indara says that's true, and she may have resisted being marked, but there's no way to know for sure. Sol asks who is protecting the child, if not the Jedi. He says that he believes that she wants to leave with them. She tells him not to confuse what Osha wants with what he wants. So now we see May reluctantly taking that image divining test. So I believe in episode 3, like it just kind of skipped over her taking the test. She just went in and went out. But she basically continuously answers wrong, and Sol and Indara share this look that they think she's doing this on purpose. So Indara asks her what everyone was doing in the courtyard the night before, and she replies, Ascension. Indara asks what Ascension is and if her marking is a part of it. She nods yes. Indara asks her if she likes it, and she says yes. Indara says that the marking is very beautiful. So Indara says the Ascension must be very important to include a marking like that. And May says that her mom says that Ascension means Osha and her will lead the coven, and that's why she has a marking like her mother. So Indara asks how they can become leaders if they're only children. And she says she doesn't know. But she says that her mom said, everyone must walk through fear. Everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny. Indara thanks her for her explanation. And May asks if she can go. Indara agrees, yes. So she leaves, and then Sol tells Indara that May was instructed to fail. Sol asks for permission to try a different approach with Osha. And so now, I remember it repeats some of the stuff we already seen between him and Osha in episode 3 about like, you have to be brave enough to tell the truth. And then we see the end of Osha's test, which I don't think we saw before, where she now, on the divining image thing, guesses the correct answer. So now the Jedi are alone again on the ship. Indara tells Torben to run the girls' blood samples. And she says that she's contacted the council for instruction. She tells Torben that after that, he and the other two Jedi will continue to collect samples while she waits for the council to make contact with her. Sol tells Indara that Osha passed the test, and she says that she will meet him at the camp when she hears the council's answer. So back at the camp, Sol senses that something is wrong. Indara shows up and says that the council said no. The council will not sanction bringing the twins to Coruscant or separating them from their coven. Torben says that there's something dangerous about those women. He tells the others that they saw what they were capable of. Sol tells him that he can feel the twins are not safe. Which is, again, something they really harp on with his character. Like, they're not safe, they're not safe. Indara says that the council told her that they have interfered enough already. Torben asks if the council will at least let them return home. Indara says no, which upsets Torben because he wants to get out of there. Sol asks to speak to the council, but Indara says that they've already made their decision. He says, but Osha passed the test. And Indara replies, yes, but it was after you coached her. So Indara tells him not to alter the girl's destiny because he formed an emotional attachment to her. Sol insists that that is not what is happening here. He says he wants to do what's best for Osha. So Indara says that he does not get to decide that. But then Torben interrupts because he gets the blood test results. So he says that the M count is very high and that they are very force sensitive. Now I'm curious, in the prequels and other material, did they ever shorten midichlorian to just M count? Because a part of me was like, are they just trying not to say midichlorian? Because like so many people hate that. But still, they apparently have a lot of those midichlorians. He says that they're symbionts. Again, a term I don't know has ever been used in Star Wars. He says that their symbionts are identical, but even identical twins like them would have different symbionts. He says that this is impossible without some sort of manipulation. Sol asks if the twins were artificially created, and Indara thinks that they may have used their power to split one consciousness into two bodies. That's one point that I guess is somewhat interesting, but like, I'm trying to think, like, is there something they can do with that would actually be like narratively pleasing? Like, could they eventually merge into like one person at the end of this? Maybe that's where they're going. I don't think that would be particularly interesting though. Sol says that only a virgins could create that type of power. Torben gets excited at this and jumps on his speeder bike because he says they just need proof of a virgins, and the girls are that proof. So his whole thing is like he wants to get the hell off this planet. He can, but again, this is a stupid thing because, like, what's he think he's going to do? Like, kidnap the girl? Because he's got the blood test results. Like, if what he's saying, and he's got this like results that talk about this symbiont thing, couldn't they just provide that information to the council, and the council, and the council would be like, tell them, okay, get off the planet, or okay, like, we're going to send reinforcements, or okay, we approve of you like getting these girls out. You know what I mean? It just seems like his response there was pretty stupid. So he says that this is their ticket home, and he speeds off. Um, Sol gets on the other speeder bike, and Indara tells him to stop Torben, and then she says that her and Kilnaka will take the ship. So Coral tells May to stop Osha from going with the Jedi. She warns her that the Jedi will not warn her before they attack, and then like she kind of goes to attack May with like her, uh, you know, her witch stick. Um, and May stops her attack using the Force, and she tells her "good girl," and she tells her to get mad. So Anastasia discusses Osha leaving with the other witches. Um, the others don't want Osha to go, but Anastasia says she has chosen it and it's what she wants. The others ask if she would sacrifice their future for the wish of a child. She says that her children are the future and her wish must be considered. They say that she may be their mother, but she is also their leader. And she says that right now she chooses mother. Another thing is, so like, I don't know if we're to believe that in a way the Coven was going to sacrifice May and Osha. I mean, because the Ascension thing makes it sound like they're leading the Coven, but then like May said that her mother talked about like sacrificing, like, so I don't know exactly what we're supposed to believe the witch's intentions were. Like, could they have possibly been planning on like straight up sacrificing the children to empower their Coven? It's unclear. So we see May destroy the control panel for the entrance door, that elevator door that leads inside the city. Coral tells the other witches to arm themselves. So Sol catches up to Torben at the front gate where that elevator door is. He says that the elevator's been disabled. So at that point, Sol uses the Force to sense that May is going to endanger Osha's life. This is one thing about the Force where like it almost gets Deus Ex Machina, where it can do almost too much. Like it's one thing if like it gives them a sense of the past, but like giving them like slight precog abilities. I'm sure that's been done in other Star Wars like things, but I don't know. To me, it's a little too much. But so he then begins to scale the city wall like he did earlier. He tells Torben that he can't let them get inside his head again, and he needs to help him get the girls. Indara tells Kilnaka that she cannot land the ship, like, I guess, like, inside the city. So she has him get out, and she tells him to stop Torben before he causes trouble. Coral has the other witches prepare for battle. Anastasia says that she told her that they cannot use violence, and Coral says that she told her she would die before she let the Jedi take their children. We see that May didn't intend for the fire to get out of hand. So this is another thing, like, it revisits. Like, she starts the fire, but then, like, it starts to really get out of hand, and, like, she kind of freaks out and starts screaming for her mom. So it's like, they really try to give everybody, like, a shade of gray in this episode. Like Sol is acting kind of stupid, but he legitimately thinks the girls are in danger. Like, May started this fire, but then she's like, ooh, she has instant regret, so she's not all bad. Torben, like, he did something stupid, but we, kind of see why. I mean, it's selfish, but he's been miserable stuck on the planet. You know what I mean? So it's like they do attempt to give some depth here, but I don't know. Most of it doesn't do much for me, I guess. But anyway, Sol and Torben finally get in the city. They show up. Coral tells them that if they take one more step, it will be their last. Anastasia tells them that it was foolish to come back. Sol tells them that they come with noble intentions. Anastasia says he wishes to know if they will allow Osha to join him to be raised by an institution instead of a family. Sol asks where the twins came from and how they were created. Anastasia says that someday those noble intentions he has will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy. So Torben takes out his lightsaber. Again, a stupid move where he didn't have to be this aggressive. It's like I said, it's the whole like superheroes fighting each other instead of just like taking a minute and talking it out. And this also, they have like the witches on their side have like some archers that like get ready to shoot. Sol tries to calm him down and tells him to take it easy. At that point, they hear May screaming for help. Although I believe Sol thinks it's Osha, because I think like he calls her Osha instead of May. So Torben and Coral prepare to fight. Again, no real reason for them to jumpstart this fight. Like he lights his lightsaber, she gets her witch staff ready or whatever. So this is weird, and I don't really understand what was supposed to happen here. So Anastasia uses her witch powers, and she begins to kind of go incorporeal, or whatever that word is. You know, she turns into smoke, begins to kind of fade. And when she does that, May also starts to kind of do the same thing, like turn into smoke and disappear. So I don't know if we're to believe that Sol thought in that moment that May was Osha, and 2, he thought that she was going to die right then. But that causes Sol to end up stabbing Anastasia. As she's dying, she tells Sol that she was going to let Osha go with him. She says that that's what Osha wants, that Osha chose him. So she dies. May runs over, cries over her dead body. Then Coral tells May to run, and she does. And so the witches start to fight Sol and Torben. They start launching arrows. They're blocking with their lightsabers. And like Coral starts to beat up on Sol, and he basically just like doesn't fight back because like, you know, he doesn't want this fight to escalate. Suddenly the city begins to blow up. This is another thing. So like she lights that fire, and I'm like, is this city made of kindling? Like how is the whole city like blowing up and catching on fire? You know, it a little convenient, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so at this moment, Coral turns into smoke, and she's like, I forget her exact words, something like, "You're gonna wish he wasn't here." So basically, she and the other witches use their power to possess Kilnaka's body. He shows up at that moment, and so now them controlling Kilnaka begins to fight Sol and Torben. He knocks out Torben. I think he also gives him like that eye injury we see that he had in episode 2. And then he gets like his arms around Sol, and he almost kills Sol until Indara shows up and uses the Force to free Kilnaka's mind. And so this in turn basically kills all of the witches that were possessing Kilnaka's mind. And a part of me thought this was like very convenient, or a very convenient explanation, because it's like who's to blame here? Because like, did Indara know that this could kill all the witches? when the witches took over Kilnaka, did they know that this was a possibility? And if so, should they ever really use their power to uh, possess somebody like that? I don't know. It, I get it. They want a shades of gray thing here, but like, and I guess they got it because it's like I guess both sides in their own way are to blame, but it's like we still don't know exactly like if Indara would have known the consequences, and if she did, would she still gone through it with it? You know, that sort of thing. I don't know. But yeah, they basically all seemingly are dead. Now, one thing to note is like I don't know if in that group of them all dying, if they show Coral in that group. So I almost wonder if they could possibly do a thing where like it's revealed that Coral is still alive. Maybe she's the big bad of the season. I could see that happening. Actually, that would actually make some sense. Um, so she tells Soul to get the twins. So he goes, and we see again that scene from episode 3 where the kids are across from each other on the broken walkway. Only this time we see that Soul gets there. Both those walkways are falling down. He tries to use the force to hold up both kids, um, but then he's only got the power to hold up one. So, of course, he ends up sacrificing May to save Osha. Um, although, should he have completely known which was which? Because just in the scene before, it seemed like he confused May for Osha, but I don't know. And I saw some people online being like, you know, it's stupid that he was like trying to use his strength to hold up the bridge instead of just the kids. But look, for all I know, like maybe the bridge wasn't totally dead. I don't know. I don't think we can say conclusively that even if he did that, like he would have had enough power to save both of them. I don't know. I think there's enough wiggle room there. Um, so back on the ship, Torben apologizes to Indara. Indara tells Kilnaka to send message to Coruscant, and then she tells Torben that they are going home. She scolds both Torben and Soul, telling them that she told them not to interfere. Our Soul says he wanted the twins to be safe, and Indara says he had no thoughts of the consequences. Soul says that he had to make a choice, and Indara grabs him in a threatening manner until Torben calms her down. He asks her what they will tell the council. She says they will tell the truth, that May burned down the witch's fortress and everyone was lost. So again, like, kind of like a lying by omission type of thing. Soul says that he must face the council. Indara asks why he would do that to Osha. After everything she lost, how could he take her dream away as well? She says before he throws himself at the mercy of the council, he should ask himself why he made this choice. At that point, Osha wakes up screaming for her mother, and when she asks what happened, Soul tells her that May started a fire. And then we fade to credits. By the way, on this episode, like the when it faded to credits, instead of the normal like Star Wars music sting, it like played this like weird song, which I thought was a bit weird. I was like, I don't know if that's another thing. I don't know if I've seen any of these Star Wars shows do is like play an actual like song instead of like some sort of riff on the Star Wars thing. It's no big deal. I just something I noticed. Um, so yeah, again, I guess I appreciate that they tried this episode to give a little more explanation and a little more depth. But again, like doing structurally doing it like this, I still think it would have been better just to tell this whole story in episode 3. You know, you could still have that, like the thing of like Soul withheld the details to Osha. You know, we would know and she wouldn't, which I think would be fine. But it really just left, I think, after, you know, seeing some of the previous episodes where they just kept harping on this stuff and building it up, like, then we get this and it's like, oh, that's it. That seemed kind of underwhelming. So I think it was a mistake to go with this like Rashomon type structure. I don't think it added much. I think it kind of took away. And then it's like, yeah, we have one episode left. And I gotta say, now that I just said like maybe Coral's still alive and like you know, maybe she's the leader of this Sith here. I kind of like that idea. I kind of think it would make sense. Um, um, but yeah, honestly, yeah, I think overall, this episode, I don't. Again, it's of all the episodes we've seen so far, this is the one I'm most back and forth, kind of wishy washy on. But I think I do come down with it still being kind of mid, because it gave us some answers, but ultimately I don't think they were that satisfying, and I think structurally it would have made more sense to just get it all out earlier. But what do you guys think? I'm curious to know what you guys thought of this episode. Please comment down below, and also let me know what any predictions you may have for episode 8, the final episode. I'm definitely curious to know. But that will do it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for following along. Please, if you will, subscribe both to the YouTube channel. You can also subscribe in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. Please leave thumbs up, positive reviews, all that good stuff. But that will do it for all of my shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please, please, please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.